Hey, Money Guy family, it's your host, Brian Preston, back with another episode of Ask the Money Guy.
That's right. You've got financial questions. We've got your financial answers right here in the Tesla. Go out to your favorite social, use the hashtag #AskTheMoneyGuy, or go to our website, moneyguy.com, and you can ask us a question right there.
It's Brian Preston, the Money Guy.
So Brian, today's question is one, we've actually gotten a few iterations of the same question. William wrote us and he said, should I take part of my investments to get the 20% down and avoid PMI, or stick 10% to 5% down and invest the difference? And then here was another one. Hey Brian and Bo, thank you for your channel. I love you guys. I need some advice. I'm 31 years old. My wife and I are going to purchase a townhouse next year. I'm selling another property and getting the 10% for the down payment for the new one. Should I try to figure out how to do 20% down? So I think the crux of the question is, if I'm going to buy a house, do I have to put 20% down?
So everybody knows 20% is the key objective.
And what's the reason behind that? Why do we normally recommend putting 20% down?
Lenders want you to have 20% down because they need you to have skin in the game so that they feel very comfortable giving you a mortgage, and then giving you a mortgage without strings attached. That's like right. Mortgage insurance,
that's right.
The PMI.
That's exactly right.
So, and by the way, things are at least better that PMI is now deductible. Mm-hmm. There was a long period of time where if you had PMI, you were paying insurance premiums that were completely not deductible, mm-hmm. and it was just an expense you bared for not putting
cost.
Down 20%. So let's answer the question. Here's a simple answer. If you have 20% and you're saving what you're supposed to for retirement, yes, put down 20%.
Love it.
Now, let's get to everybody else. Because I went and asked the entire office. Now, we have some smart financial people in our office. We have multiple CPAs, we have CFAs on staff, we have CFPs on staff. And I said, I want to know, everybody here who owns a home, your first house, did you put down 20%? Expecting, especially like Carol, fellow CPA, I was like, surely conservative Carol put down 20%. She's like, no. And I was like, well, I didn't put down 20% on my first house, but
I didn't put down 20% on my first house.
There was nobody at the office, even though a lot of us are homeowners, that on their very first house put down 20%. Right. So that made me start thinking that there's a lot of people giving financial advice, and yes, the ideal situation is that you're putting down 20%, but let's all face it, life happens, and it doesn't always make it easy. So let's give you a checklist so you know 20% or not 20%, because a lot of you are probably trying to figure this out. So here's the question if you don't have 20%. First question on the checklist is this your first home purchase? Mm-hmm. That goes a long way. Second thing is that are you going to be in this house for 10 years? Because realize, real estate has a lot of expenses on both sides. Mm-hmm. But tell them, because it's not only real estate commissions.
That's right.
What else is involved
all
with
the
it?
Closing costs associated with it, title fees, document fees, all the stuff associated with it sometimes can be anywhere from like 1% to 2% of the purchase price that you're going to pay in closing. So you may not want to do that. And the reason we think that 10 years is so important is the argument we often hear from folks, Brian, is that, if I wait until I have 20%, I'm going to be waiting for 10 years before I own my first home. So I don't want to wait that long to start getting into a home, to begin establishing roots. And that's okay. I think a lot of folks in their 20s and 30s fall into that camp. But if you're going to make the decision to plant yourself firmly somewhere and you're not willing to wait 10 years to save the 20%, you need to at least be willing to commit that when you buy this house, if you are going to put down less than 20%, you're going to be there for at least 7 to 10 years.
Well, and we live in a super hot market. The Nashville marketplace is incredible. We got Amazon coming here. Right. There's all kind of businesses moving here. So real estate is moving much faster. It's not just appreciating with inflation. It's going up 3, 4, 5% a year. So a lot of times younger people can't even get on the train of home ownership and then appreciating home ownership. So they get left behind. That's so even though you're saving up and trying to get to that 20%, there's no promise that you save for the next 5 to 7 years, that now the line has not shifted on you, that to buy the same house that you needed 5 to 7 years ago, now the purchase price might be literally 20% more, requiring you a bigger down payment. So my younger employees on their first homes, I'm like, look, it might be something that you're buying putting down 5% or 7% or 10%. I get it. Life happens. I did the same thing when I was young. Bo, you did the same thing. And that leads to the third thing on the checklist is, Are there big life changes coming? And Bo kind of hinted at it, and I will pick on Bo, because Bo, and I'll let you tell your side of it. Why did you buy your most recent house?
My most recent house?
Yeah, not the one that you're moving into, but
Okay,
the
but
one
the
your
one before that.
Oh, your second home.
My
Because I
second
forget,
home.
this will be your
Yeah.
third home. Your second home, why did you buy it?
Well, let me tell you the reasons why I bought all the homes that I've bought. My very first home, the only reason I bought it is because I had convinced myself if I rented, I was throwing away money. So I did not put 20%
If only
down.
we'd had that show of several pieces of financial advice you should just throw out the window.
Throw out the window, because I thought I would just be throwing money away in rent. I also was not willing to live in that house for 7 to 10 years. So again, I had just two very flawed reasons. Well, the second home I bought is because, wow, my family's growing. I got a baby on the way. Maybe we need to go ahead and buy a home where we can actually have a nursery and actually
No,
have.
you got bullied into buying
I got
a second
bullied
home
into it. I
because
wasn't
we
gonna say it
told
that
you
way,
when we
but-
found out you were expecting, your wife was expecting, because you were not able to, or you're able to carry children yet. But when we found out your wife was expecting, we were like, look, buy a house.
Yep.
You need to buy a house.
That's right.
And you have to admit, now looking at it 4 or 5 years in the future,
It was a wonderful decision. It was the right decision, even though I was against it at the time.
you've made good money.
Yeah, absolutely. I bought well. Now, and here's what I think is really interesting, and we say this all the time, right? Even if you're going to be someone who stretches it, and you go down and you put down 3.5%, 5%, 10%, what you really have to make sure you get right is the affordability factor of your monthly carry.
Yep.
If you're someone who's putting down less than 20% and the monthly payment is going to be greater than 25% of your gross income, that should be a
That's
big,
bad.
big red flag, because you might be stretching for more house than you need to be in.
Yeah, so realize this is down payment discussion, not housing costs. We want the housing costs to still remain under the 25%.
That's right.
That's a key objective that we always tell you. But we understand sometimes you don't have the full down payment. So just kind of in summary, and then we'll close out with one final tip on real estate, how you can always win in real estate. But remember that if you have big life changes coming, and if you have 20%, do it, because we think that real estate with 20% is obviously the ideal.
Right.
Go with that. But we also know if it's your first house, you got big life changes, you have income that's going up over the years, and this is going to be someplace you're going to stay for the next 10 years and plant roots. We think that life allows you to have some latitude on that down payment, because capital might not be laying around when you're in your 20s
That's right.
and 30s. Now, here's the last piece of advice from a guy who's owned 3 homes. I've had a vacation property that I had at one point. All your money is made on the purchase, but here's the big key thing. You're not buying the house, you're buying the land underneath it. It's location, location, location.
Yep.
Pay attention to that stuff, because there's a lot of places that are far away from where you work. They're far away from conveniences that are beautiful, can have lots of cool features on them.
That's right.
But at the end of the day, the dirt's not in the right place. So pay attention to where the dirt is that you're building the house or buying the house. It will bring you a lot more happiness, a lot more potential for appreciation, and just having success with real estate.
This was a fantastic question. If you have a question you want us to address, go to your favorite social, use the hashtag #AskTheMoneyGuy, or you can comment below in the comments, ask us a question there, or you can go to our website, moneyguy.com, and ask us a question there.
Or Money Guy's out.